So yeah, it's great to finally get a chance to talk to you, Ronnie.
Same here.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay, so I wanted to have this discussion with you because we basically disagree on. I went on the non sequitur show a
Yes.
few weeks ago, and you wrote some comments, and I responded to them.
Right.
We were basically disagreeing on the importance of philosophy, right?
Sure.
And
In some ways.
And so yeah, we're finally getting a chance to talk now, and so I'd like to record this and put this up on my channel.
Sure.
All right. So, where would you like to start?
Well, I would like you to. What exactly is your? And I think I know it, but I don't want to strawman you. What exactly is your disagreement with Steve's position?
All right.
In a nutshell, obviously, I pretty much know it, but I want to make sure I hear it again.
Yeah. So basically, Steve is arguing against the position that many of the new atheists online have about how they define the word agnostic and atheist. And so I tend to like the new atheist way of defining words.
Sure.
And Steve clearly likes the more philosophical, the academic philosophy way of defining words. He likes to refer back to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Right.
And
Britannica.
And he likes to use the words according to that. But, a lot of people don't like those definitions and don't. And so that's, I can see why people don't like those definitions and prefer a more colloquial definition. And Steve seems to believe that if you use the colloquial definitions, it necessarily leads to category errors and absurdities. And I wanted to show him that it's not necessarily the case that you're going to end up contradicting yourself just because you are using the colloquial definitions. So basically that's where we disagree. And I also believe that academic philosophy is not very useful.
Okay, so let's start off with the first part. I'm not going to speak for Steve, but I've probably read everything he's written about this. And again, like this whole thing really started is the fact that he does not want to be called an atheist. He's an agnostic. So people ask him, well, why? They label him that. He would give his reason for it in a very well written out, researched reason with citations. And what it seems like a lot of the atheist community saw that, and they took umbrage of his definition of himself, of what he actually was called. He actually gave the reasons why he wants to be called an agnostic. He wants to be labeled that for a reason because he uses his justification from the SEP, from other citations. He says it works better. Now, I've never seen Steve tell anybody what they should label themselves. He says, you want to call yourself an atheist? That's fine. I've never heard him once ever tell someone you're not an atheist or you're not an agnostic. He's just saying, I'm an agnostic, and these are the reasons why. And what happens is when he gives that definition, it seems to challenge other people's definitions internally, and it's almost like people are picking a fight when there's really no fight.
Oh, that's interesting. All right. So,
because the fact that you're saying that right now that you said that Steve wants, I don't want to misquote you. You said Steve wants other people to use this terminology. Did you say that earlier? I don't know if I don't want to miss.
He wants his definition. He wants to spread the knowledge that in academic philosophy, in the literature of academic philosophy, his are the words that are most commonly used. His are the definitions that are most commonly used in philosophy. And he wants people to know that. He wants more and more people to know that.
Well, I don't know if that is his goal on that, but is that a bad thing?
I have no comment.
Okay,
actually, let me. Okay, so I had made a video about. So after watching the debate with the Duke,
yes.
there was I went ahead and I made a video explaining my position. And let me pull that up real quick.
Sure.
And I went through and I listed, yeah, here it is.
Before you pull it up, I want to say I've never actually spoke to Steve on this. We've had a few writings and a few messages here and there. And just reading his comments and reading off of that, this whole thing seems a response of his own definition of why he's an agnostic. And because of that, he does not want to be fallen under the same label as atheist. And a lot of atheists took that was an attack on their position. And because of that, a lot of this debate and argumentation is going on because of it. And it almost seems very personal.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't think that's quite what's happening.
At all?
Hold on. Let me show you. Let me see here. Are you able to hold on a second?
I see me.
Okay.
I don't like seeing me. I don't look good. The hat's the wrong way.
Are you able to see this screen?
Yes, I am.
All right. So these are the views that I believed that Steve McRae was implying in his debate with the Duke. All right. And I went through, and as they were speaking to each other, I just played clips of Steve McRae speaking here, and then I compressed it. I summarized it into a short little statement here. I tried to accurately summarize his positions. All right. Now here, SM6, Steve McRae's view number 6 that I believe he implied is.
Did he say that?
I believe he implied this. It was based on a specific statement that he said, but then
what was the statement that he said? I want to see that.
All right, hold on a second.
Yeah, that's more because I know your implication. I want to see. By the way, can anybody see this? Should I read this? SM wants it to be widely known that in academic philosophy, SM's definitions are more widely used.
Okay, so let's go to that part of the video. Let me think here.
Well, it's probably true.
Well,
that's probably true, right?
You still have some doubts, right? Let me see. Number 6. That in academic.
At first, I think the goal of this debate is actually to see what these words are actually used by philosophers. And I think that's critical because a lot of atheist channels don't put that information out.
Steve McRae wants it to be widely known that in academic philosophy, Steve McRae
wrote a lot of this down, it
are
looks
more
like.
widely used.
Some atheists have the...
Okay, so that was basically it right there.
Right.
He believes that this information is not out there, right? He wants. Let me see. I took a lot of this from the transcript, the YouTube transcript that's automatically generated.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly
It's easier.
accurate.
Right.
Terms. In academic philosophy,
Especially in a debate, there's so many words going back and forth right now.
Right. Used. Okay, so
at first, I think the goal of this debate is actually to see what these words are actually used by philosophers. And I think that's critical because a lot of atheist channels don't put that information out.
So he thinks it's critical because a lot of atheist channels don't put that information out on how the words are actually used in philosophy. All right. So
I like that.
That's where I got this this summary from.
I like that. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Now, if you agree that this is an accurate summary of
Sure.
what he said,
Sure.
then
No, I'm not
wouldn't
agreeing with the summary. I'm agreeing with what he said. Yeah, I agree with what he said.
All right. So then let's figure out how we can accurately summarize that position then.
Well, he loves philosophy that I know of, that I've seen. Again, but he's always talked about loving it. If I'm not mistaken, I have a bunch of definitions here. I have the glossary of philosophy. I have the SCP one. I have the Britannica one, all used within philosophy. I try to look up the actual, or say like, where did the word atheism come from, right? I looked up those origins of that, and it's very religiously, and there's an influence, of course, with philosophy and religion. They go hand in hand with that. So it's not like we're trying to reinvent the wheel with the word. And I agree what Steve said, and a few other people have said, that the atheist experience, and a few other atheist Facebook pages and groups, they have their definition of atheism, and I get that. And they want it to be like you said, colloquial. They want it to be a larger definition that has more people fall under that umbrella. David Silverman said he wanted that word to be more mainstream, more widely used, more well known, and I'm all for that. But I like the precision of what Steve did with agnosticism and atheism. I was trying to the other day tell my friend about what this big debate online within our community. And I said it seemed to me that, and again, for simplicity, atheism is a positive claim that there is no gods. Theism is a positive claim that you believe in a god. Agnosticism is just not enough information. I decline to take a stance on it or on the proposition. So I thought that's very simple. Atheism, there is no god. Theism, there is a god or gods. Agnosticism, not enough information to know, I decline to state. And I think that's a very, very simplistic way for me, without involving Steve or anybody else, for me to how I see those three words.
Okay.
And it was the writings and the formulation, watching during this debate, during this ongoing debate in the Great Debate community, that's kind of solidified that. And I think I used to call myself a weak atheist, and now I look at myself, I'm actually an agnostic. If you look at the literature, if you look at the way the literature writes it, I'm actually an agnostic, and I like that. I like the precision better with it.
Okay, that's fine. If you have a preference for that, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. But what I'm saying is that you didn't need to switch. You could have, because before you were in this community, you were fine with the other definitions.
Yeah.
Right,
No, it worked.
So what I, so what I'd like
worked,
to
but
say.
I was never challenged. And I watched someone, I think it was Darth Dawkins, challenge somebody with that, and he tore this guy a new butthole with it. He tore this guy up.
That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything.
Because what happened was it did. I'll tell you why.
I have some things I wanted to say.
Go for it.
Okay. So one of the claims you started off with today is that people are taking umbrage with the fact that Steve likes to use the philosophical definitions. They see that as like an attack on them or something.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But actually, what I see is that Steve, he has a certain way of wording things on Twitter, right? And so what I'm seeing is he criticizes people. He's very quick to resort to name calling and denigrating them, claiming that they're not intellectual or whatever. And that is what gives off a large amount of this hostility. He starts a lot of these fights. And so that's how I would put that.
Does anybody start a fight with him?
I would say, I don't want to answer. Let me, there's a few other things I want to say first.
Sure.
All right. So there are a lot of misunderstandings going back and forth between him and a lot of people. Okay. And so you have to keep track of how different people are disagreeing with him in different ways. All right. And so what I've done, when I watched the debate with the Duke, I'm more familiar with how the Duke and Steve are misunderstanding each other than any of the other debates that you may have seen back in the past, because I haven't.
What does Steve misunderstand about the Duke?
It's all in the video that I wrote, that I put in there. I go into like sentence by sentence level. I go through how they could have been misunderstanding each other.
Okay. Could have been. Okay.
And so one of the things I wanted to tell you is that Steve does tend to say that if you don't use the philosophical definitions, it necessarily leads to baggage. His famous, the thing he likes to say is that you have to accept the baggage that goes along with it. If you want to use those colloquial definitions, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But you have to accept the baggage that goes along with it. That's the way he tends to say things. All right? And my position is that there isn't necessarily this kind of baggage. It's not necessarily the case that you're going to be using category errors for the theological non-cognitivists and all of that stuff, okay? And I'm trying to say that it's completely internally consistent with itself. So Steve likes the philosophical view about justified true belief being the definition of knowledge. He likes that one. It's his favorite. I'm trying to say that there's another way of thinking of that, about knowledge and belief, where knowledge is not a subset of belief necessarily. And so
where's literature for that?
I don't need literature to make this claim.
But what's the sounding behind that? What's the reasoning behind that? How did you get that? How did you come to that conclusion?
Because I heard of the new atheists saying this, that, you know, you can, there's a two axes.
Yes.
You know that chart, that
yeah.
Okay. That's what I based it on. Okay. It was like, I myself was wondering, like, am I an atheist or am I an agnostic for a long time? And then I saw this chart and I was like, yeah, that fits more with how I think about this. All right. And so that was my main disagreement with Steve.
Did you understand Steve's issue with weak atheism and weak theism and how they can be?
Yes, I understood it.
Yeah.
I understood. Yeah. It's all there in the video. That's why
that's a problem.
That you would watch it. It's not really a problem, though. And so, all right, so there's going to be a lot to get through. So one of the things I want people to know is that the way that Steve presents himself on his YouTube channels is not the way that he talks to people on Twitter. And I found this out. I was a bit surprised when I only started following him on Twitter after I appeared on his show. And I suddenly saw just how combative he is with people. It's not that people are coming after him saying, "Oh, Steve, you need to use the words the way we like to." He goes around and searches for anyone who's using the new atheist definition and he's the one who gets in and starts making statements. Combative statements.
You know, a lot of these conversations he has, and I've followed a lot of them, are ongoing ones that aren't just recent. They're months and months and months. I think he wrote a paper a long time ago about how atheism also has a burden of proof to a certain point, at least from an epistemic point of view, and that kind of led up to this. So you might be catching the middle of a conversation that's been going on a long time, even though it doesn't look like a new conversation. Things were said months ago or weeks ago, and you're walking in the middle of it. There's a hostility there.
I understand that possibility.
Oh, it's very strong.
Yeah, I'm just saying that he's engaging with new people all the time on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, and those people who he doesn't know yet, he asks them what their position is, and then he berates them if they if he says, okay, so do you believe in God or do you believe there is no God? And the person says, I don't believe in God. He'll come back and he'll say, that's not an answer. I ask you a simple question. Do you believe there's a God or do you believe there's not a God?
He's right.
And that person will say, I don't believe in God. And he said, stop avoiding the question. I'm sick of trolls like you.
Well, how do you know the person wasn't trolling? How do you know this person wasn't deliberately trying not to answer the question a certain way, knowing they might get trapped? How do you know that? I don't know the specific conversation you're talking about, but I see this a lot and I study these things. How do you know that maybe this person was trolling him?
Okay, so let's move on. Now, you had said something about Silverman, right? And the American atheists.
Yes.
So do you believe that Silverman is, he has some kind of like political agenda or something?
Well, he said he does, and I don't blame him, and I'm glad he does. Sure, his agenda was to make atheism a common word, commonly used, well-known. He wants more people that are atheists to come out as atheists, so the polls will show that, to give us more voting power, more unification. And he said that over and over again, and I like that, and I don't blame him, and I support him on that.
Okay, so do you believe it's morally bad for a person to have a political agenda?
Nope.
Okay. And you're willing to actually say that, just matter-of-factly like that? And I'm going to be putting this
It depends on the political agenda, of course, but we should have an agenda. I have one right now trying to find out the truth on something.
All right.
I mean, a political agenda doesn't have to be a bad thing. My agenda is to get the best possible government together that we can take care of the environment.
Great. That's great. That's what I wanted to hear.
Right.
Because Steve is somehow allergic to any and all political agendas based on the kinds of statements that he's been making.
How so?
Okay, so it's in the video. Hold on a second. Let me pull up this part of the video. All right, so let's see here. God dang it.
There I go again. My face is backwards. I love that.
All right.
Okay, more reading in small print.
See. I can make it bigger if you'd like.
My eyes are pretty good, but jeepers.
Let's start here. How about that? All right, so one of the views that I believe Steve McRae implied is that it is morally bad for a person to discourage someone from using the definitions used in academic philosophy.
Where did he ever say it was morally bad?
Like I said, this is based on specific quotes from the video. All right, and so all I did was I took what he was implying and I just shortened it and put it into a simple phrase like this.
I don't even know how he would even think. I understand this is not what he said, but like I don't know what quote, unless he actually said that. I don't know how he possibly could think that.
Okay, that's fine. Let's make some progress. Let's go back to SM6 because
SM6.
You also didn't agree with this.
I like how you did this, by the way, SM3, SM4. I love that. Very, very neat.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for years. Anyway.
I love it.
So, hold on a second. All right. So you also didn't agree with, you weren't necessarily sure that I accurately got this part either. So what is it that you have?
SM wants it to be widely known that in academic philosophy. Oh, you mean within philosophy? Oh, I thought you meant that philosophy terms are more widely used colloquially. No, they're not. Within philosophy, they're used in that. Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
I read it. I couldn't read it. The words are too small. Sorry. Yeah.
All right. That's fine. Yeah. All right. And I also tried to get Steve to admit to these or confirm these views on the record. In fact, I made the whole video in an effort to get him to go on the record with these kinds of views. And he watched my video, and under it, he left a comment basically not giving any answer on what his responses are.
Let me ask you a question. Chris, let me ask you a question. Are you taking, let's just say this, are you more concerned with what you perceive as Steve's attitude towards these things to people, or his actual beliefs and his actual positions? Which is more important to you, what he's saying or how he's saying it?
Yes. I don't get your question. Why do you want me to make an?
Because we're gonna get an answer here. That's why. So I want to know. You brought up a couple times that I don't think you disagree with Steve's definition of atheism and agnosticism within philosophy. The literature's there. It supports it. We agree with that. And we also, Steve would agree, I'm sure he would, I won't speak for him, right, that the colloquial version, the way the AXP uses it, the Alliance uses it, that they take away the burden of proof on it, and it's about just a lack of belief, and you have strong and weak atheism, they kind of split up into pieces, right? I got a better way of saying it.
That might be what they do.
The way how's this? The way Duke presented his case.
Right.
Right. Okay. So there's a difference there. I get that. So we have no issue with those two things. You just went on a little talk about how he acted on Twitter with people and how you perceived that he was rude and how you used the word rude, but you implied that, I think, and he was just a little more cold, and that I don't know if you used the word attack, but he attacked new people and berated them with questions, and you seem to be more concerned with that than the actual definitions.
No, I address his actual definitions. The only reason I brought that up was to counter your claim that people are taking umbrage with Steve.
Well, they are.
Well, then what?
All because
you
Steve
see
might
what
be
I'm
fighting
saying?
back doesn't mean, and maybe Steve does start a few fights in there.
Okay.
Still doesn't
Hey,
mean
that's
people
all
are
I was
starting
saying.
fights with him.
That's all I was saying.
Oh.
That's the only reason I brought that up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because
So
yeah,
then
I'm
your
sure
notice-
both sides, sure.
Both sides. Oh my goodness. Okay. So
Well, first of all, have you written down and find out how many people that are talking to Steve behind the scenes that are supporting him?
I get the impression of that there's a lot he has a big audience.
Right. And do you also know how many people email him and attack him from behind the scenes?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. He's talked about that too. These same people sometimes, and then he gets caught up in conversations with on Twitter.
Okay, that's fine. I gave you an example of a situation where there's a new person, he doesn't know them yet, and he asks them if they believe in God or if they believe there is no God. That was the example.
Do you know who the
gave.
person was?
No, it was on Facebook recently. I can dig it up, but it's really common. I don't think it should. I don't think you should doubt that this happened.
Well, that's why I'm saying you should look at each particular conversation. Like, we could assume he doesn't know that person. He might already know the person ahead of time, And in other conversations for other things, for other reasons. They might have had a disagreement on something else. We don't know that. You can't assume that, that he doesn't know him.
Earlier, you were saying, "Oh, Chris, how can you assume that person was not trolling Steve?"
Right. You made the
It's
automatic
amazing.
claim the person was trolling.
No. Oh, okay, so you're saying that maybe Steve was making the automatic claim that the person was trolling, but I wouldn't jump to assumptions like that.
Again, I don't know. I didn't know the conversation you're talking about. But you made it sound when Steve called the person a troll that was a defense for him or a way out of the conversation. And you said if he didn't agree with the person, he would call him a troll, or if they didn't answer the question a certain way, maybe the person was trolling. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know.
All right. So then we can move on.
Move on.
So now, okay, so I got you to agree that SM6 seems reasonably accurate.
What was that again, Forey?
That he wants it to be widely known that in academic philosophy, his definitions are more often used.
I don't know if he wants it widely known. I think it's a good thing. I don't know if he actually said that. I don't know. Me might have.
Remember, I showed you the clip where he said that this information is not getting out there. He thinks it's critical that this information gets out there.
Oh, good.
That's
okay.
all I was summarizing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to move from this. I'm going to connect it with what he says later, okay, where it comes down to agendas. All right. So now, let me see. SM26, like, I haven't seen this happen. I haven't seen people discouraging Steve from using the definitions that he wants to use, But if that's happening somewhere, then fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Let me see. This is a view that he seemed to imply. It is morally bad for a person to have an agenda to encourage one's own definitions of words without regard for the literature of academic philosophy. And how he would put that is, it's morally bad for a person to have a political agenda.
I don't understand the word morally is being used in there. I don't.
This is. I'm claiming that he's implying.
No, I know that. I don't, is morally the right
views.
word to use? I don't.
Yes. He believes that the world would be a better place if people did not have political agendas.
He said that?
No, he's implying this.
Where did he imply this?
All right, so let's go and find the part of the video where, let me see.
And when I said earlier about I have a political agenda, sure, I want the best possible government we could have that helps the most amount of people. I mean, like that's an agenda, right?
Yeah.
When I vote for a candidate, I want them to vote for the
It's perfectly
issues
fine.
that I find important.
It's perfectly fine if you and Steve don't agree on everything, on agendas. Yeah.
Well, no, maybe he doesn't like a bad agenda. Well, when he thinks it's
he
bad.
doesn't speak that way though. V.
So you say Steve doesn't like any agendas at all? Is that what you're saying?
Hold on a second. Let me get the exact part.
About not defining theory as a body of facts. Theory as a body of facts. All of his best is someone understanding.
Definitions of words like atheist.
They don't care if it's philosophical sound or not. That's their agenda.
There it was. That's
the
their
word usage.
agenda.
To say lack of belief, they don't care if it's philosophically centered. That's their one. They want to get
Like atheist.
so the
Okay, so this is the part. Let me see if I can slow this down. Ooh, that's not gonna work. Never mind.
I love the fact Steve has the earth behind him. That's great.
American atheist, and this is straight from Pam Whistler, the editor-in-chief, told me this. One, she said, don't use American
Keep
atheist.
triggering those flat earthers.
Two things
So
that are
funny.
One, they want to get as many people to use the word atheism to normalize it, and two, they want as many numbers as they can get. They don't care if it's philosophically centered. That's their agenda. David Silverman has said his agenda is to get dictionaries to change the word usage to say lack of belief, and he doesn't care if it's philosophically centered or not. It doesn't matter. He's politically motivated because he wants to have as many atheists as possible for the reason. This is not conspiracy. This is in this book, Finding God.
It is morally. Okay, so that's where he was mentioning agenda with a negative connotation.
Let me see. These are his exact words?
No, I didn't. Okay, let me see. I can pull up the transcript. Hold on a second.
Please, thank you. Well, it's pretty important.
Yeah,
if you're going to make a summation of what he
that's why I
said.
wrote it all down. That's why I gave you the video ahead of time. Let me see. All right, so this is that part of the video that I'm summarizing.
David Sullivan.
David, this is from the transcript.
Oh yeah, Silverman.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not accurate. David Silverman has said his agenda is to get dictionaries to change these words
Sure.
usages, and he said it doesn't. It used to say lack of belief, and he doesn't care if it's philosophically sound or not. It doesn't matter to him. He said
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Okay, so that's what he's saying. So when he says agenda, that David Silverman has an agenda.
Sure.
He's saying that as a negative with a negative connotation.
I don't know how you came to that. I don't read it that way.
All right, so let's move on because later on I think he states it even more clearly.
No, I think he's making a point why the word atheism is used so widely colloquially now, because Silverman wanted to get the word out there, and I don't blame him, and I think that was for what he wanted to do. I mean, like, it got the word out there. It's more widely used now.
Yeah.
He's a fellow Bostonian like me.
All right, hold on a second. All right, I think I can.
Shucks, I got to go in about 10 minutes, and I'm sorry to do that to you.
Oh.
I know. You have all this stuff
Okay. So
all set up for me. And you're very organized, by the way.
all right, so here, let's try this. All right, so later on, he says
There we
this.
go.
Okay, so let me see. So he was talking about American Anthony Flew again. He brings up American atheists.
Right.
They have an agenda to try to
Sure.
get people to think that atheism is merely a lack of belief. All right, they have an agenda. So once again,
This is a transcript right here?
Yes, this is a YouTube transcript that's not
Okay.
completely accurate. So that's what he said, and again, he's using agenda to imply, I believe, a negative connotation, so that it's morally bad to have an agenda. And then he goes on to say, so that's agenda-driven. That's ideological. As if he's proven his point now.
Oh, hold on. I don't think I'm not gonna speak for Steve, but I don't
I'm
think
not
Steve.
agenda-driven, he says. Right
I
here.
know, but I think you're taking this. Okay, you got to read this now. I don't think. Again, I don't think Steve has a problem with agendas, at least ones that are helpful. But I just lost it. I'm gonna keep reading that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Sorry about that. Is that right there?
Yeah. What part do you want to see?
So the whole thing's fine. So I think he's saying the agenda has, I don't know, maybe saying this, I don't know if this is a transcript, has overstepped its boundaries and has blinded the person to see that it might be causing a problem. I don't think he's a problem with the agenda. Maybe that particular agenda and how it's turned out. I don't know. Again, this is part of a conversation that has a lot more to it. They're probably going back and forth. I'd have to read the whole thing.
Yeah. And then right here, he says, I'm not agenda driven. All right. And all I did was I watched the entire debate with the Duke. I saw all the context. And then I condensed it down into a statement like right here. It is morally bad for a person to have an agenda to encourage one's own definitions of words without regard for the literature of academic philosophy. Now, I put this specific quote to him on Twitter yesterday. And I asked him, wait a minute. I asked him if he denied that this is an accurate summary of his position. Because just yesterday on Twitter, he also said, let me see if I can remember. He said that he doesn't have an agenda. He said something to the effect of him not having an agenda again. And so I said, well, if that's true, then would you say that this is an accurate summary of your position? And eventually he said, sure.
Well, if he says he's not he said sure?
Yeah, let me pull up the image. I actually took a screenshot.
He said sure he said sure it was morally bad.
Hold on.
He said sure to your
hold
summarization.
on, let me find it. Hold on. All right. Let me try to remember where I put it.
Sorry, I was just getting lost in what was being said.
Okay. He started us off with, like I told SJ, I have got to say that it's absolutely liberating not to be beholden to any dogma, ideology, or political agenda.
Yeah.
Okay? And then I said, if this is true, would you be willing to formally state on the record that the list of views I thought you implied in the debate with the Duke, as described in my video, is accurate? I'd especially like you to confirm SM6, SM28, and SM29. Then he says, nothing you wrote about me seems accurate. And he goes off on a tangent. And then hold on. And then I asked him again specifically about SM29. He said, that is not what I mean by agenda. Agenda is usually driven by political, social, or economic factors. Please try to understand and use words in their proper context with respect to the dialogue. And I reminded him again that I based it on actual clips of him speaking. And I asked him again, your definition of to have a political or ideological agenda seemed to include to encourage one's own definitions without regard for the literature. Do you deny? And he then said, sure. And then he said, no idea and not really that interested. He thinks, so basically he's saying that this is boring for him. Going through these details is boring or something. All right. So he's not saying that, he didn't say sure to it is morally bad. What he said was sure to, I got his definition of to have a political agenda. His definition of political agenda, I accurately summarized it with these kinds of statements right here. And then he'd stopped responding to me.
I think the real word he's concentrating on is dogma. That's the real word I think he's really concerned with of that.
I mean, maybe. But
maybe.
He
That's what I'm
concerned
concerned with.
He repeats the word agenda a lot. He says he's not. He said that right here. I'm not beholden to any dogma, ideology, or political agenda. And he says political agenda a lot. That's one of his favorite phrases. All right, so then we can stop here for today, and it's really nice being able to speak to you. Finally,
yeah, me too.
It's been a long
I didn't
time
get a chance.
coming.
I'm sorry it took so long to get back to you about that.
Yeah, no problem. So hopefully, maybe next time we can go further into why I don't like academic philosophy in the first place.
Great, that's gonna be a long one, I bet. Yeah. I'll bring some food for that one.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good day.